Hey guys, this is Yoda. This will be my guide to Ara-Kara, one of the dungeons we had in Season 1 of The War Within, and it's coming back for Season 3 with quite a few changes. I'm going to start by running all the way down, picking up all these crawlers. By the way, I did pre-pot with Potion of Shocking Disclosure. This may not be allowed on the tournament realm, but it is definitely allowed on live. Pretty useful for getting aggro on the smallies on the stairs. There are a lot of changes to these mobs. The biggest one is that the jabbing flyers used to put a bleed on the tank. Now, if you can look at our debuffs here, they put bleeds on everyone that is not the tank. So basically, the tank is hard chilling in this pull, and everyone else is in massive danger. I do pull both of the attendants here as a paladin. I think that might be really risky as certain tank classes, like if you're a brewmaster and you're basically useless, and when it comes to interrupts, other than sweep and ring, this might be really risky. You might want to CC one. Uh, but as paladin, I just pull both. I solo both attendants. Group just kicks the mini boss. So anyway, what else is happening here? There's these ravenous crawlers that will charge people. I think that charge used to sometimes not do damage, but it does damage all the time now. So that's another layer of damage that they're taking. There is engorged crawler. It's kind of hard to see because there's so many nameplates here, but this is an engorged crawler. It applies this poison debuff on a timer, which doesn't go on the tank either. It just goes on other people. So basically everyone is taking bleeds plus poison plus ambushes from smallies. Although like not going to this mini boss is kind of troll in my opinion in high keys because you're gonna lose infinite time. So you kind of just have to go here. Everyone just kind of has to know what's going on, and if you're really scared, you can lust it. I think in high keys in season 1 we ended up lusting the first boss, but definitely early on in the season when this pull is going to be like low success rate, you're going to want to lust. So everyone is going to be in danger except really the tank. And there's also going to be 2 to 3 casters depending on how many trilling attendants you pull. You can also actually pull 0 casters if you want. There is a patrol that walks like all the way over here, but you could, if your group stands like here or here, then you can actually avoid the patrol. You can technically pull 0 trilling attendants if you want to. We're pulling 2 with the mini boss. So the trilling attendants have 2 abilities. One is Web Bolt, which you'll never guess. It just bolts a random person and does some damage. And Resonant Barrage, which is a channel that needs to be, kicked or stopped. If you stop it, then it will go on cooldown and just start casting Web Bolt. If you kick it, they did make this change. Resonant Barrage used to not be on the same school as Web Bolt. Now they're on the same school, so if you kick it, it will like stop for a bit. And we also have the mini boss Ixen. So Ixen has all of the mini bosses have the same set of abilities. So one is the frontal web blast, and they also have web bolt, which bolts a random person. So you need to interrupt that. And they also the special ability that Ixen has is called horrifying shrill. So we'll go back until it does it. So this cast, if this goes off, it is almost certainly a wipe. It does massive damage and fears everyone. And there's a bunch of stuff on the ground that you want to dodge, plus a bunch of casts, plus your healer's gonna be busy. So if that goes off, it's basically a wipe. You want to hard assign usually someone to that fear, and then hopefully like there's enough kicks and stuns to deal with the rest of the bolts. And hopefully your healer is also really good in Lust, and they can keep everyone alive. So that's this first pull. There are also these little web things on the ground, as you can see. If you walk over them, it creates ground denial, which is these webbings. If you walk over them, you take some damage. And if you get 10 stacks, I believe, you get this debuff. So there's a bug. It's been there since season 1. It says you're stunned, but actually you're not stunned. You're rooted. Make sure you keep pushing abilities. And it is magic dispellable if you need to get out of the root. You can also free them. Your healer also, by the way, will not be dispelling you. They'll be very busy. So try not to run over these webs when you're here. I did run over them in this run, but ideally you don't run over them. And that's the first pull. After the first pull, we're going to go move on to the second area. That's basically more of the same mobs, more of your group being in danger, tank not really being in danger since these flyers randomly just don't target the tank anymore. One thing you will notice is that this second room features a lot more engorged crawlers than earlier, which means that everyone is gonna, not on top of having these bleeds, you're gonna be having massive amounts of poisons. If you're the tank, be sure to help out with poison dispels. You're not really in danger here. If you're a paladin, make sure you have the stack that cleanses poisons and makes them immune, and just be overall very aware of the poisons in this area. And then I think we are going to pull some mobs into the next mini boss. So this mini boss has the same ability as the last one. It has Web Bolt. It has the Web Spray Frontal. And it also has an ability called All of the Brood. So this, I believe, haven't actually like verified this, but I believe Call of the Brood now does significantly lower damage. Although it might just be that on PTR everyone like already knows what's going on, so they're all using defenses properly. But I believe this does significantly lower damage, and now it spawns way more ads. This used to be like 2 ads, now it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, like 10 ads or something. So make sure you're ready to pick up aggro on those as a tank. I actually bubble the first one. I think I sacked someone. Yeah, I bubble sacked the first one. And I believe it's going to cast it a decent bit more often. Also, this web spray, by the way, something you'll notice. So it does the conal and it puts these circles on the ground. One thing that people make a mistake that people make a lot of, is that these circles explode after. It's not at the same time. After the web spray goes off. So you see the web spray goes off and then the circles go. And if you're in that circle, by the way, in season 1, it was bugged and you would just instantly die through bubble. Now you just take a lot of damage. And then it's more of the same. You basically just need to worry about getting aggro on these ads. And everyone does have a lot of funnel. But the main scary part is like everyone's getting pulsed by Call of the Brood. And then it also spawns these ads. If someone gets meleeed by them, they're probably going to die. So watch out for that. So that's that mini boss. Then we move on. More of the same mobs. There's 2 engorging crawlers here on the right that you can pull, which we do, and a lot of jabbing flyers. So this is going to be many, many bleeds on the group. Fortunately, this mini boss is relatively tame. It has 2 extra abilities other than Web Spray and Web Bolt. Actually, it doesn't even cast Web Bolt. It has Web Spray, and it has Poisonous Cloud, which is this thing. If you stand in it when it drops, you basically die. And if you run into it, it takes really hard, so you probably will die. And it also has Poison Bolt. So one thing to not get confused with in this pull is that Poison Bolt basically does no damage. You can completely ignore it. You don't need to worry about the poison on the tank. What you need to worry about is the poisons from the Engorged Crawlers on the group, especially because they're now getting all the bleeds from jabbing flyers. And you do also need to dodge this, and you need to interrupt the attendant. But since the mini-boss kick doesn't matter, it's kind of free to just interrupt one mob. That's this pull. After this, we are going to go to the boss. So this boss is extremely difficult. It was very difficult in Season 1, and they made it even harder. The main change they did with this boss is that before, it only had one really dangerous ability, which was Alerting Shrill, I believe it's called. Yeah, Alerting Shrill. Now, Gossamer Onslaught does a lot more damage. I believe it did some damage before, but now it's like you have 2 healer checks instead of 1. One other thing to be aware of on this boss, so there is technically a tank buster move called Voracious Bite, except the bite is not really that scary. It does 3 hits. They're all blockable. I don't think they're parryable, but they are blockable, and you can like heal yourself in between the hits. So in general, I would say if you have a bunch of cooldowns, you can use one there. But the really scary ability is this one, Alerting Shrill. So Voracious Bite applies a 100% debuff on the tank where you take extra damage, and then it does Alerting Shrill, which hits monstrously hard. So this ability is actually what will kill you, and it also melees during the alerting shrill while you have this duo. So as you can see, I used my cooldown at the wrong time, and I actually griefed a little bit here since I cooled down the Vite, and then the alerting shrill goes off. You can see I almost die, but then I proc Temper and steal health, I think, from the already dying Warlock, and also proc my cheat death, my mini cheat death. So that's a mistake. Make sure you cool down the alerting shrill. If you're going to cool down something, do not worry about the Voracious Bite. Couple self heals or whatever your class does will usually be fine for the Vite. Also, as for the actual main boss mechanic, it spawns ads. So every time it does at the start of the fight, there's ads here or eggs here, and every time it casts Gossamer Onslaught, it'll spawn those eggs. And when it casts Alerting Shrill, not only does it do a lot of damage to everyone, it also spawns the starved crawlers out of these eggs. So there is a mechanic where if the starved crawler is inside the boss's hitbox, then it is an insta wipe. The boss eats it. It doesn't gain health, but it gets like a massive damage buff, and the boss is already an extremely hard healer track. So the next AoE ability is likely to kill everyone, or if that doesn't, then the one after that probably will. So the tactic that we use is the tank. I bring them pretty close, but not on top of the boss. And then everyone else stands on the side of the boss that the ads are on. So they're not walking the ads through the boss, they're walking it like sideways. Or technically, you could stand like where I am, and you'd be fine because the ad would like hit you and not go into the boss. But that'd be playing it pretty close. That's the positioning. Then Gossamer Onslaught happens. It drops a bunch of webbing. Generally, try to move the boss to the edge of the room before this, so you can drop the webbing like in a circle instead of directly middle of the room, which takes up less space. And then boom, at the end of the onslaught, you can see these eggs spawn. As soon as I see that, I'm going to bring the boss very close to it. That way, the melee don't have to like travel across the universe to do damage to these ads. There's right here. One thing though, if your group is not moving with you, then you will definitely need to immediately move the boss away as soon as the ads spawn. So it's good to move them here and then just watch where your group is. Like if I will see and like this our druid, it doesn't immediately go over here, then I would be moving the boss away. This is basically the movement. You move the boss close but not on top of them, and then your group basically like lures them sideways across the boss, perpendicular but not through the boss. And that's basically the whole boss. So this boss is actually very challenging. It has 2 heal check mechanics. The large trail also hurts the tank, and you can also get really unlucky with these spawns. As you can see, we have webbing through the middle of the room, and the eggs spawn across the webbing, so we had to go all the way over to them and cross the webbing, which is a little bit more difficult. Also, I'm not sure why this is still a thing, but sometimes randomly, if you have the boss close to the edge, actually, I think it happens to us here. No, it doesn't happen to us here. The eggs can spawn like on another platform, which means you can't DPS them immediately. You also can't bring the boss close, so yeah, this boss is going to be a nightmare for a lot of pugs. I foresee a lot of wipes. Also, obviously, there is the insta wipe mechanic. If an ad is ever close to the boss, it's basically just GG. I think originally when they released this boss, it wasn't an insta wipe, but then people just ate the ads on purpose because the tank could tank it, and then they had to do that. So yeah. All right, so we're going on to the second area. This is going to be our first pull. There are quite a few changes here too. So the first big change is that these blood-stained assistants do not do like any damage at all now. Extraction Strike was changed. So firstly, it has a much longer cooldown. And secondly, it doesn't give them stacks. So before, it would increase their damage and healing by 10% every time it hit you. You could parry it and it wouldn't hit you, or you could CC it, but it would stack up, and the cooldown was shorter than the buff duration. So if it kept hitting you over and over again, then eventually you'd have like a 4-stack thing with 40% increased damage on Extraction Strike that was like full healing itself every time it hit you. That has been changed. There is no more stacking thing, and it also doesn't cast it for a long time. It is still parryable. It is not blockable. But basically, the tank pressure in this area has been removed as well. So very easy for most tanks to survive. Hulking Bloodguard has also been changed. So instead of the slam AoE, now instead it casts Carrion Swarm or Locust Swarm, as we'll see here. Basically adds a debuff on everyone, and they start taking damage. You can AMS it, as we see here. So instead of like one big hit of damage, it's just many hits. It's like a small tick thing. Also in this pull are the Bloodworkers. If you're not in melee, they can charge you. So the dangerous part is the charge plus the Locust Swarm. If that ever happens, then someone will die. Also in this pull, there is a Web Mage that needs to be interrupted. Obviously, Bolt or Volley plus Locust Swarm equals death. Don't want that to happen. The volley has also been changed, by the way. This volley actually does damage now. Before, you would just let it go off and laugh at it. Now, if you let it go off, you will die. Sentry Stagshell is another mob that is basically a wipe mechanic. Alarm Shrill. If this ever goes off, it's basically going to be a full wipe. So it does 2 different things. Number 1, it aggroes everything in like a 100-yard radius. So basically, if you can handle this pull, then if you basically can't handle this pull plus another one of the same pull. So that's basically a wipe by itself. Secondly, it spawns a second hulking Bloodguard, which now does 2 Locust Swarms, and there's also another mechanic from these Bloodguards. They reduce the damage taken of all the enemies near them by 50%. So before, the strategy was focus this Bloodguard, since it's the only thing not taking extra or reduced damage. Now it spawns an extra Bloodguard, and everything is taking reduced damage. Plus, you have to fight like the whole room. So Alarm Shrill ever goes off, it is an immediate wipe, basically. A common tactic actually is like if it goes off here, it's basically over. But if it goes off like on the left side, then you could wipe, run back, and now you just go right because you can't go left anymore. There's an extra blood guard. We will be going left, by the way. I believe left is better in higher keys, mainly because there's less blood guards, and those enemies are something you really want to avoid generally. And that's basically the pull. Next, we're going to be fighting more of the same. Another blood guard with some web mage and a sentry stag shell. Remember, everyone needs to stay in melee so they don't get overlapped. If you do get charged by a bloodworker during this locust swarm, chances are high that you are going to die unless you have like a big personal or are playing DK or something. But it's basically more of the same. Take a web mage, stop a sag shell, don't randomly die as the tank for fun, and heal check. More of the same here, except there's no blood guard since we went left. There's only 2 casters. And this pull is significantly easier now. Before it was very hard for the tank since these assistants had that weird stacking mechanic, as I mentioned. And they cast Extraction Strike more often, so it's just basically a free pull now. And we'll skip ahead to the next pull. So after that, we go here. You need to get rid of this web mage who is blocking the doorway in order to go through. Technically, if you disorient him, you can also open the pathway. We're going to pull 4 Bloodworkers here for a free count. Need a little bit of patrol. And there's 2 stag shells. Obviously, if that go off, it's GG. We finish off the web mage. And then before, since everyone was playing with Augmentation Evoker, you would just spatial your healer, and the healer would tag the boss from outside the room. That has not changed, I don't think. What has changed is the viability of Augmentation Evoker. No, they basically aren't in any Mythic Plus groups anymore. If you are playing Evoker, you can still spatial and tag the boss. Without Evoker, you basically have to find some way over this. There are many ways like Gateway, Warrior Leap, VDH Leap, run through into Shadow Meld, but basically you want to do anything you can in order to not fight the pack over here. It's another Blood Guard with some Blood Workers. Basically, you're telling your group the next pull is 1 mob. If you cannot skip somehow, also Priest Fade into grip is another way to do it. If you cannot skip, then, oh well, unlucky, you have to kill the Blood Guard. But pretty much most groups, I don't want to say every group, but most groups have a way to skip this. It's just whether or not, you're comfortable actually doing that skip. So this boss is pretty much the exact same as it was before. He has the main scary part of this boss is the debuff that he rarely puts out called Infestation. Everyone, I believe, is on a 45-second cooldown. Once you get it, you cannot get it again for 45 seconds. But technically, he can pick like someone twice before he picks another person, since the cooldown is like 12 seconds or something. But that's just basically how the mechanic works. Every 45 seconds, or you cannot get it for 45 seconds once you've got it. It does do quite a bit of damage. The other mechanic, other than like this random frontal, is these ads that spawn. They cast an ability called Silken Restraint, which is a root, and that root actually does quite a bit of damage too. So you want to be interrupting every single one. We're still playing Paladin here. And also, if you're ever rooted, you cannot dodge basically either this circle called Eye of the Swarm or these little circles called Ceaseless Swarm. So whenever he does infestation on someone, when that runs out, it spawns one of these circles that just kind of drift around. And one thing they did change is that these circles are far more deadly than they were before. If you get like 2 stacks of the dot, it's basically certain death for a DPS. Even like you can see I'm the tank here and it does like half my health in a tick. You really want to avoid getting hit by these. Before it was a little bit more forgiving. Now definitely avoid getting hit by these. Generally the strategy for this boss is going to be like assign personal / figure out who is playing like a class that can't personal every single infestation and just give them all the externals or just watch their health. Also, one thing you'll notice during that Eye of the Storm, I was standing on the right side. So we'll go back here. I'm basically standing on the right side because this boss's impale is aimed at the tank. And generally, if you're not overly moving the boss, which you can do if you want to, if you're not overly moving the boss, then the swarm naturally goes to the left. So you want to aim the front to the right, and have the group go to the left. If there's like way too many tornadoes in the area, you can like move, and the boss will move with you, and the eye as such will move with you. But usually that doesn't happen. So generally, you just aim the front to the right, and the group stands on the left. He also does have this charge. I don't think it has changed, but someone told me they could dodge, but I'm pretty sure they were just coping. This is the charge. He picks someone, charges at them, and then while he's in midair, you can just blink it, or if you're not playing mage, use some other movement skill to dodge it. Also, something I noticed, whenever he charges, this ad spawn usually happens like immediately afterward. So watch out for aggro on that. When they insta spawn, the tank doesn't always have aggro, and if they spawn on top of you, then they can melee. Alright, that's the second boss. Next, we'll go into the third area. So this area got one really big change, and I think the middle's also changed, but no one ever plays the middle anyway. But the other mobs have changed a decent amount. So the main change here, actually the only change here, is with the reinforced drones. So You'll see my bigwigs or my cooldown tracker is trying to tell me that they all have grasping slash on cooldown, and that is because or off cooldown. That is because grasping slash has been removed and has been replaced by this mechanic. So they whenever they auto attack and it hits, it applies this stacking magical debuff. It is dispellable, dwarfable, bubbable, whatever, freedomable, tiger's lustable, everything. And it applies 2% slow per stack. So it goes up to 50, and every percent, I believe it's 1% less healing received and 2% slowed per stack. Don't quote me on that. And I think it goes up to 50. But basically, the mechanic is your healer has to dispel you, or you have to use some other way to get rid of the slow before erupting webs happens, which is way more healthy in my opinion than the other thing, which was if you have 3 stacks of grasping slash, then and this happens, then good luck. So basically, they added healer dispel as a counterplay mechanic, and there's also no tank buster really. There is some amount of tank threat since they do decent bit of auto attack damage, but this is really the only part that's actually hard for the tank, in my opinion. Also featured, we'll go over the other mobs real quick since they aren't changed, but some people didn't do season 1. So the Blood Overseer has 2 abilities. Actually, we'll just go to the beginning of the pull so we can see all the mobs. The Blood Overseer has 2 abilities. Number 1, Venom Volley, just kick LOL. Number 2, Erupting Webs, that's the swirlies, just dodge. If you get hit, you get stunned and take massive damage. And there's also these winged carriers. So we'll go actually to the start of the pulse because the winged carriers were not in. There are 2 patrolling sets of 5 around the area. One of them patrols very close to the middle. And the other one patrols like closer to the sides. So this one patrols close to the middle. These mobs are extremely dangerous for your group. They just randomly jump and do like damage. And if you're the only person in combat, also they can all jump on you and just insta kill you. They are basically the unavoidable healer check damage of the area. You can see a bunch of them just jumped on our mage. I'm pretty sure it is on a cooldown, but it's very hard to control like exactly who they're going to jump on. So it's kind of just roll personals if you're low angle. And they also melee pretty hard. So when there's more of them, not only is your healer busy healing everyone else, the tank is also taking a lot more damage. Then we do more of the same. There are these little black puddles on the ground. If you walk over them, hold on, I'll try and do it. Well, I'm doing it right now with freedom. If you freedom, then you don't get rooted. But usually, what happens is if you walk over them, you get rooted. Then you can interrupt the black blood that is like gripping you, and then you'll like become unrooted. Generally, I would say this area is easier than season 1, mainly because the tank mechanic is a bit easier since the healer can basically help with the spell, and then dwarfs are also active where they weren't before. The tenor for like this pull would be kind of illegal, I would say, since it's like hard for the tank and there's wing carriers, but right now like I would say it's not as hard for the tank anymore, so you can kind of do this pull. Also, one other change they did, you need a lot more count. So we are going to play the middle here. This hulking blood guard is from the second area. It's the same mob. Before it was like a mini boss over here, but they've changed it. It's just the hulking blood guard from the second area now. There's no more like stacking stomp thing. I think what we're going to do is we're going to kill this and then chain blood overseers to the boss. The timing usually is you want to wait for them to cast erupting webs and then pull the boss like 1 second later. The reason for that is that this boss has an ability that forces you to root yourself, and if you root yourself and then they cast erupting web, then GG. This boss has been nerfed quite significantly. As you can see, it only puts out 3 poison debuffs. Also, if you get hit by a poison debuff, like when you dispel it, it shoots these lines out. Before, if you got hit by that, you just died. Now you get another poison dot, which can be dispelled or healed through. And this is like the boss's major ability called Cosmic Singularity. Basically, he pulls everyone in. There is an extra pull at the end of this at 0.5 seconds. So if you're using an escape skill, make sure you use it. I think it's at 0.8 actually. If you're using an escape skill, make sure you use it at like 0.5 or below. Like you could jump right here and you wouldn't get hit. This is probably a little bit late since 0.2, but TLDR, if you're escaping, use it very late. For normal people, you're going to want to run into one of these pools and root yourself, and then you kick the pool to get out. Also, as you can see, right after the Cosmic Singularity, where we're supposed to be rooted, the Overseers cast Erupting Webs. That is because of the pull timing we did. You want to wait 1 second after the cast Erupting Webs, then pull a boss, and this happens every time. And basically, it is more of the same. We can see me, we'll go to the next Cosmic Singularity since I actually have to play that one. One thing that can easily happen, by the way, is if two people are going for the same puddle, then you can get screwed that way. Also, I went for a puddle that was too close and I actually got debuffed. One thing they changed also is that the singularity used to just one-shot you. They have changed that now. Instead of, it does significantly less damage, but the debuff is much worse. This debuff is 75% less damage done and 75% more damage taken. So you really don't want to be getting that debuff. Fortunately, I did make the mistake here. I bubble greeted the first one, and the second one I just misplayed. So it is what it is. All right, that is going to be the Ara-Kara guide. Thank you for watching. Peace out.